Thank you very much for joining me. I can see already people here. And if you were hoping to join this morning's session at 10 a.m. UK time and you were waiting, I'm very sorry, a major technical problem occurred. The SSEN, the local power company, cut the power to the village for the whole day. It only came back on an hour ago. I kind of thought that it was going to happen, and I had a backup battery and everything set up. The backup didn't work as well as I hoped, and I was desperately scrabbling around for about 45 minutes to get online, and I just couldn't get online quickly enough. So thank you very much for your patience, and if you're watching this recording or you're watching this live, having missed me this morning, I apologise for the inconvenience, and I'm delighted you're here today. Right, so apologies out of the way. Let's do this. I've got my power, I've got my internet, I'm ready to go. So I am presenting some recommendations and articulate thought leadership around building the ultimate B2B homepage for your website. And this report has been put together by my colleague Sam Bedell, and with some input from me and some improvisation as we go along. It's a really interesting presentation, and hopefully I'm going to give you some things that you can take away and do on your website imminently that will make a big difference. So let's get started. Where am I coming from? Articulate Marketing is my agency. I've been running it for 25 years or more. We have built more than 115 websites, and I've helped all kinds of companies with lead generation, demand generation websites, marketing automation, search, and so on. So that's where I'm coming from. That's our experience. If you would like me to look at your website homepage, I would be delighted. It would give me pleasure. All you have to do is email me, matthew@articulatemarketing.com, or go to articulatemarketing.com/meet. And indeed, on our homepage, there is a button that says book a marketing strategy session. That is my calendar. You will be talking to me, and I will look at your website and give you personal feedback. No BS, no hard sell. I would love to do it if you're kind enough to show up for this. I'd love to do that for you. Okay. Last parish notice before we get to homepages. There's a whole bunch more webinars coming up weekly over the next couple of months. These are some of the great titles that we'll be presenting. I'll be doing the presenting, preparing a few of them. My colleagues will be preparing some of them. Hopefully you'll find them useful. You can sign up for them at articulatemarketing.com/webinars as they are published. I think the next couple are live on the site. I hope you'll do that. Right. So this is the agenda, but we've got no time for agendas. We've got to get straight into the action. So why is your homepage important? Well, the old adage is you only get one chance to make a first impression, and your homepage is likely to be that for a large proportion of your website visitors. For Articulate, that proportion is 10%. So 10% of our website visitors enter the site through the homepage. So get that wrong, and you are missing out on a really important contact point with potential customers. It's also important because if you come in on another page and you go beyond that page, the likelihood is some people are going to click on the icon in the top left-hand corner of your menu and go to your homepage to find the next thing. So it's part of people's navigation journey. It's also your best opportunity, and people are expecting you to do this with the homepage to make that first impression. People are going to look at that top of the scroll, the bit that they see in their browser before they scroll up and down, and they're going to make a judgment about your business, about your website, about your credibility in a fraction of a second. And this has been scientifically tested. There's amazing research done by Norman Nielsen Group, Microsoft, and others about how quickly people make these judgments. And you'll feel this for from your own life experience, making a judgment about looking at a website going, oh, that looks a bit janky, or I don't understand what they do. I'm moving on to the next thing. So it is a critical piece of your marketing and sales apparatus. It is the most important page on your website. It's not just about looking pretty. It's not just about branding and positioning and design. It's actually a commercial function. It's to do with how well your site converts, the number of people that stay beyond one page, the number of people who scroll, sort of recency, frequency, engagement, click-through rate, form submission, lead capture, all of these things run through your homepage. Okay, so if that hasn't made the point, you can drop off now. You don't need to stay for the rest of the webinar. I think if you're here, you know that the homepage is important. So why is it, given that it's very important, that so many websites do not do a brilliant job? And I would say, having looked at hundreds and hundreds of B2B technology marketing websites, a very large proportion do not do a good job. Probably something like 70 to 80% are deficient and missing an opportunity, not following best practices on their homepage. And this is typically because people who are decision makers for website design content, typically founders, product managers, and so on, sales people are often quite dominant in these decision-making units for websites, rarely marketing people, and very rarely branding, positioning, messaging specialists, tend to take the view that if we can explain what's in our product and all the features, and we can give an exhaustive explanation of that, people will buy. It's a variant of build it and they will come. It's sort of tech it and they will come. And the reality is that produces websites that have, and particularly homepages, that are overloaded. They give people sort of a feeling of indigestion, decision overwhelm, and confused buyers just don't convert. They go somewhere else. So this cognitive load and complexity increases bounce rates. It stops people scrolling through. It confuses people. If you come to a website and you don't think that company is going to do what you need or solve the problem you've got, you're off. And I'm just going to say one thing at this point. Carousels are never the answer, right? Every time I see carousels on a homepage, what I mean by carousel is a slice of the website where things are scrolling, right? So, you know, a new thing appears, a new thing appears, a new thing appears, a new thing appears. Even if you put little controls and you let people pause it, that is never the answer. Except when the question is, how do we convince our boss that we've put all the things that they want on the homepage, right? Because actually they're just confusing, they're distracting. You've probably made a decision and moved on from the homepage before the thing you were looking for scrolls by. People understand up and down scrolling. People understand buttons, links, back button. Anything else is imposing more confusion, complexity, cognitive load on people, and you really run a risk with a carousel of messing things up. Okay, I've let it out. I've let the steam out. I do not like carousels. They are never the solution. Okay. So we've built more than 115 websites. We've analyzed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds in the process of doing that, because every time we build a website, we probably look at 20 or 30 websites to kind of get an idea of where that client is and what they need to be doing. It's much easier to learn from other people's stupid mistakes than make them yourself. And we see repeated structural problems across poorly performing homepages and highly performing homepages. And that's what I'm going to try and communicate today. And I'm going to give you some things that you can take away and go do on your website right now. Key point I want to make about websites is they are very rarely one and done, right? They are about continuous improvement, optimization, testing, data gathering, and iterative improvement. And if you've got a good website platform and it's been built well, marketing teams should be able to do that without having to go to developers and spending a lot of time on development, for the most part. So it's not about building a perfect website and having all the stress and drama of that and then waiting, 5 years before you get to do it again. It's about getting 80% of the improvement on the rebuild and then iteratively optimizing and improving. And we've learned this at our cost and also for our benefit at Articulate, where we've done relaunches on the website and then left them. And we're now very much continuous improvement and continuous optimization, continuous change across the web homepage and key other pages of the site. Okay. So let's start with the bit above the scroll. So I'm talking about the hero banner, the hero section, the bit that you see when you go to the page on whatever device you're looking at, whether it's a little a phone screen or on your laptop. That bit is like the homepage of the homepage, because the rest of it, typically what we see is 10-20% of people scroll all the way to the bottom of the homepage, and the top third, top half gets 30-40%. 100% of people see the above the scroll hero thing. So let's start with that. You've got a limited amount of time. People are making a decision intuitively in milliseconds. They're making some judgments looking at your website, and you've got about 10 seconds for them to scan and read on what you're doing. So you have to communicate confidently to them, who this website is for, what is the problem you're solving, what is the outcome you're delivering in their language. You've got to talk about their problems, right? Not your stuff. It's just like this is a really important thing. Tech people love talking about their technology in their jargon, but customers and buyers want solutions to their problems in their language, and this is an important differentiation. And one of the challenges we often have with tech clients is, especially when you're talking to senior people who are founders who are very technologically minded, they think you're dumbing down the technology, and we're not. We're trying to talk to people about what they want to know. Okay, so the clarity should be there from the start, and you should be testing the language and the messaging, if either A/B testing or cohort testing or user testing or getting some of your customers to review it. Although I just mentioned in passing, asking your customers, like 2 or 3 people, or asking your neighbor or your cousin who once built a website at university or something, a small sample set is often a very bad way of forming a judgment. It might be a good way of getting some insights and observations and findings. It's the most frustrating thing in the world is to be a website company where you've got someone who's got a really strong opinion at the client about why something shouldn't be done, and their opinion is, how can we put it, contrary to best practice, and they go, oh yes, well I showed it to a customer and the customer said it should be purple. Okay. So observation, yes. Data, yes. Opinions supported by scanty evidence, probably not. So the hero area should distill and communicate the essence of what you do, the essence of the value of what you do, the thing that makes you different, the thing that makes you stand out, what it is that you can do for your customers that other people can't do. Ideally, talking about outcomes rather than solutions. And this is a journey that I have been on in the last year with Articulate. I mean, we talked a lot on our homepage and above the scroll about, we do websites and brand strategy and content and automation with HubSpot. And what we're now trying to say is, smash your targets and drive demand gen, show thought leadership. These are the things, the outcomes that we're trying to achieve. And by the way, this is how we do it. If you get that positioning right and you connect with your ideal client profile, your ideal target personas, by doing that, you might lose some people along the way by being specific, but you connect with the people who you want to sell to, they will stay, they will click, they will engage, they will go further. So here is a value proposition formula that you can put into that bit of text at the top of the screen. Don't be afraid of having a little bit more text, a short paragraph, a few sentences, and a key headline. There's a temptation of just trying to make it really too pithy, and then you get into sloganizing a bit. If you can do some variation of, we help you, ideal customer, achieve this outcome without this problem, or solving this problem, you are most of the way there to getting this right. Okay, so I really like the example that Sam's given me here. Innovative compliance solutions for a better tomorrow is an absolutely classic hype and waffle jargon heavy thing. If you say, we help enterprise IT teams reduce compliance risks and accelerate audits, okay, I've got it. Classic example of this on the first website I think I ever worked on, apart from my own, was for an accountancy firm in London. And they had this thing, we deliver financial management solutions for our clients. And I was like, well, what are financial management solutions? And they said, outsource bookkeeping. And I said, why don't you call it outsource bookkeeping? Oh, well, that's boring. We should call it financial management solutions. And so be clear. Clarity is the mission here, right? Be really explicit, even if it's a bit prosaic. Here are some ways you can make this work harder for you, this hero section, right? Make that little header short and sweet. If you go look at Apple's website, everyone tells us Apple is their, their role model website. You'll see they've got a little slogan, and then they've got reasons to believe and what it's going to do for you, and they differentiate between those two things. And I know on our website, and indeed on this presentation, we've got all this sort of classic art stuff, and that there are some reasons why we're doing that in terms of brand positioning and messaging. But generally, abstract imagery on the banner area doesn't help you. Either have something that illustrates the thing that you sell or the outcome that you deliver, or keep the abstract stuff to a minimum and expand the amount of space given to text and CTAs. You also need this to load quickly, and you need the text to be readable. So in our experience, background videos that play, images that are pale and washed out with white text that's very hard to read doesn't work. Images that you have to wait while the video is loading and the whole thing takes 5 seconds to load. Performance really matters. People want to be able to come to that page and see quickly. And remember, if they're making a judgment in less than a second, and you've maybe got a few seconds while they read the stuff, you can't afford to be waiting for that sort of video to load and for all those pop-ups to come up and all that crud and chrome to load up. So performance is a factor here. And then you want a call to action, right? CTA, call to action. You need a button that says, book a demo, find out how we can solve this problem for you, calculate your savings now, something. And the more compelling, specific, and valuable that CTA is, the more people are going to click on it. My personal view is that 2 CTAs are better than 1 on the banner, and this is not evidenced in anything other than what we do on Articulate, in my opinion. But that commercial thing, which is the commercial next step, a little bit of a hand raising, book a demo, talk to somebody, something, and a find out more button. Now, do not use the phrase find out more. If you go to Articulate, we say discover the difference engine, something like that, which is our sort of marketing philosophy and content theme. So we've got that, and we've got book a marketing strategy session. So there's a really specific, it is a commercial next step, even though I'm not actually selling on these marketing strategy sessions, but it's about discovering need and sort of creating a bit of cognitive dissonance about the status quo. But there's also just stay on the site, self-serve, learn more, and you click on that, you're going to find books and downloads and things that are valuable and interesting that establish our thought leadership. That's what we're doing. Commercial, informational. Okay. We are indeed about halfway through time. So time check, good. Here is an example of a website that we've launched recently, I think in the last month or so, for Sterling. They make digital, I've forgotten the name of the phrase now, like data rooms for M&A deals. And you can see on the left where they started, there was a great deal better, which is a nice sort of high-P thing, but not really a description of what they do, who it's for, or why. And I know we've got an abstract image here, but we've got underneath this some text that positions them, and then some more information. So this is an example of a transition. There are others. Next, as you start scrolling past the hero image, what we're trying to do is, how do we turn that from a series of sort of random acts of marketing and calls to action into a narrative? Because that's the next thing. The first thing is hook somebody's attention, give them an immediate next best step, CTA, but the other immediate next best step is to keep scrolling. And the key thing to understand here is the homepage is not every single thing you could possibly offer. It's not every single CTA, it's not every single piece of gated content. It's a curated hub with links to other information. It's basically you're doing your job on the rest of the homepage if you get people off the homepage onto another page that really solves the next step. It's the next best step for them. If they're scrolling and scrolling and they can't find what they need, the homepage is failing a little bit. So yeah, your homepage should give people a high level what you're about. If you think about a pyramid structure where there's a sort of little cap of the pyramid goes, this is what we do, and then maybe here's the next layer of the pyramid. But if you want the next 3 or 5 layers of the pyramid, you've got to go somewhere else to get it. You want to be able to plan and curate that based on what people are doing on the site. So you are looking at CTA click-throughs. You want to be running occasional Hotjar type user observation experiments, maybe some testing with users, giving people jobs to do on your homepage, like find how to get support, or find out how to do a pricing calculation, or find out how to talk sales, and see what they do. If you give too much stuff and the page is too busy and there are too many pop-ups and cookies and GDPRs and this thing and that thing, and then scroll, and you're going to give people decision fatigue and overwhelm, especially on a small screen. On the other hand, if the page is just an infinite scroll of everything and you have to kind of go halfway down the page to even find out what the business does or how it can help, that's also a failure. Alistair Cook, the journalist, the man who presented Letter from America, the longest running radio series ever, I believe, he said that journalism is the control of suspense. It's the delivery of measured answers to what's next. And your website homepage should be like that, right? So, okay, I'm curious. I'm going to scroll. Oh, okay, I've now got the next bit. Oh, and I'm curious about the next. Okay, so this narrative, this scroll is really important. And the space on that homepage is finite, right? So you can't put everything on there. And if you look at Apple, they've got a lot of products. They don't put all their products on the homepage. They rotate and curate and launch new things and use the homepage as a shop window for the latest and greatest. And remember, carousels are never the answer. Sorry, I've got another thing, another pet peeve. I've just got to say this before I move off this. Do not succumb to the temptation of making the homepage like a creative user interface experiment. Okay, so I've seen occasionally maybe 1 in 20 website teams get carried away, maybe at the behest of a marketing team, or more often a CEO who goes, I want something interactive and dynamic, and I want to win an award, and I want to be really exciting and lots of animation. And so they start doing things like breaking website conventions, so that, for example, and this is the most common thing that happens when this dynamic takes hold. You scroll down a bit and then there's the dreaded sideways scroll. So you're scrolling down, but actually what's happening is something scrolling to the right, and then it scrolls, and then something goes to the left, and you can't actually use you can't use your scroll bar on the mouse or whatever the way you expect. That's really common. Or something comes up and something animates and you can't get past it, or there's a page at a time and you have to sit and watch while some stuff loads before you can get to the next thing. Don't break the internet, right? Just people know how to scroll a website page up and down. Don't break that, just for the sake of trying to make an impression or be different. Okay, rant mode off. Years ago, I used to play Infocom text adventure games, and maybe anyone my age might remember these. And you type, go north, pick up the letter, fight the dragon. And you could instruct it to be more or less verbose, right, in its answers, a bit like ChatGPT, I suppose now. Anyway, when you type the command verbose in one game, in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, I think it came back and said maximum verbosity engaged. I love that. Right, anyway, back to the webinar. It's really important to prioritize communication, impact, and function over your internal politics. Right? Find data evidence to stand up to the hippo, the highest paid person's opinion, and encourage teams to understand that every single thing on that homepage has to earn its place, and has to earn its place in that narrative, and it has to earn its place by encouraging people to take the next best step towards a commercial outcome. Commercial outcomes, commercial intent have to guide design decisions, not the desire to look good to investors, or the desire to bolster the CEO's ego, or the desire to make something that's visually distinctive. These things are important, visual distinctiveness. I'm not saying they're unimportant, but it all has to be calibrated by, does this get more or less, does it make the car go faster? To use Frank Williams' metaphor, does it make the car go faster? And I think web design teams, agencies like Articulate and their immediate marketing sponsors need to be aware of this and find interesting and compelling arguments and about, well, okay, you want people to get to the demo page, or you want people to do, book up a sales call. Here's how we architect it to move to that. So we call that customer journey mapping. And it's important, and it gives you a supporting principle for fighting back against. Why can't we make it, animated and put a video on it? We like this story brand framework. So talking about defining the problem, make the visitor a hero, position yourself as the guide, your Obi-Wan Kenobi, present the plan, show some proof, and then invite them to take action. Another book that has a similar theme to this, and it's not really so much about websites, but it's always been very influential for me, is Barbara Minto's book called The Pyramid Principle. You probably only need to read the first 30 pages of it, but it's really, really powerful about persuasion through writing. So look at your website and go, does it follow this framework? How would we reorientate the copy to do that, the structure on it? And the good news is, most website homepages have 300, 400, 500 words of copy. They have, so many sections on it. It's not the hardest thing to go and mock up an alternative version. It's not the hardest thing to A/B test two versions. If you're using HubSpot, you can actually literally have two versions of the homepage, serve them 50-50 and see which one gets the more clicks. So this is a model flow that you can use. So typically a hero section, a social proof strip. Personally, I would put the problem framing a little bit higher than we've solved it for these people, but credibility is important. People want to know that they've done it for people like you. Even better if you can do a bit of detection about who's visiting and show them proof in their sector. What is the solution? What are the expected benefits and outcomes? And, show me some examples of who you've done it for. And then, okay, take the next CTA step. It's probable that you don't want to get people to scroll through the whole page before they come to a CTA. So you can do things like using a hello bar, a sticky menu with a CTA in the menu. You can carefully bring in a slide-in CTA that says, book a call. Maybe you get halfway through the page and here's the CTA for the next best step. Or subtle CTAs through the text. But this is a good flow. You can deviate from it. It's not a, I think William Hazlitt said, rules and models are the enemies of genius and art. You can deviate if it's going to make sense, but it always has to make sense in a commercial context. Okay, I'm conscious that I have got a few more slides and I'm almost out of time. Crikey, I might run a few minutes over. Think of this as my penance for this morning's technical problems. If you have to drop off on the half hour, I do understand. You can pick up the recording and the slides by email in the next couple of days. We'll send them all out to you. Okay. Very often, a strong architecture can be undermined by a poor presentation, by poor usability, by slow loading speeds, or by glitchy or over busy pages. And we've all been to websites where the menu has sort of wrapped wrongly, or you've looked at it on a mobile phone and there's too many pop-ups, you can't actually see what's going on. Implementation also matters, and very often the solution to make a good implementation is just to simplify the damn thing, right? So in our experience, short paragraphs, lots of subheadings, bullet points, icon cards, avoid long blocks of text, avoid over heavy pop-ups, avoid using your language, use their language, avoid hype. There's a fantastic thing you can go read on the internet by the Norman Nielsen Group, NN Group, How People Read Online. So Google NN Group, How People Read Online, and you will see that removing the hype, shortening the copy, making it scannable, making it factual, makes copy on the web almost twice as readable, memorable, and credible. So why would you not want to do that? but it does pull again in the opposite direction for most people's expectations of what good web copywriting actually is, where they want hype and razzmatazz and jazz hands. Okay. My tutor at Pembroke, when I was studying history, he said, you can use facts in your essays, Matthew, like a drunk uses a lamppost for support or illumination, but not both at the same time. And imagery is a little bit like that. So you want to be making sure that all the imagery on the site is supporting what you do. With tech companies, there's a temptation to put tech diagrams on the site, and they tend to be massively overcomplicated, or screenshots, and typically they're sort of shrunk down to the size of a thumbnail and you can't see what's going on. This is part of the tech it and they will buy mentality, the man in the mirror problem. What you need to do is review every image and make sure it's paying for its space, a little bit like a supermarket is doing, where everything on the shelf has to be earning a certain amount of money in sales. I just popped this in. This is a website that we built where we were using illustrations. Effectively, we turned screenshots into SVG illustrations, and it looks a lot like the app, but it's not actually a screenshot from the app. So what we're trying to do is show what you would get and give a reasonably faithful recreation of the app without actually putting in too much detail, so excerpting bits and visualizing, helping people see it. This is the mental exercise you need to do with diagrams and with screenshots. CTAs need to count as well. Read more is a really crappy CTA. Learn more, find out more, especially if you use the same CTA for everything. So you can use jokey ones like Me Want. You can use prosaic ones like Discover the Difference Engine, book a free marketing strategy call, but make sure that the impact, what you get when you click on it, is visible. And also, I think it's a really bad practice to promise something you don't then deliver. And I saw this week doing a strategy session for somebody, a thing that said something along the lines of find out how much you can save. And I clicked on it, and what I got was fill in this long form and a salesperson will call you. Well, that wasn't quite what I was promised. I was expecting a pricing calculator or some examples and something like that. Social proof is important. 10,000 lemmings can't be wrong. So good B2B tech companies have a good smattering of client logos, testimonials, case studies, accreditations, whatever. Pick them carefully. Too many is too many. And we've got 4 HubSpot Impact Awards and industry credit. We could fill a whole page with HubSpot accreditations and logos if we want to do, for example. And we actually dialed a lot of that back down, because what matters is just the handful that make us different. Okay, I'm going to cover this somewhat at pace. I've got a couple of slides on this, and then we're coming to my conclusion. So I'll be finished in about 4 or 5 minutes. Okay, so the way that you get to this mapping of the customer journey is to start thinking like your customers. And that starts with articulate work anyway, with thinking about mapping out ideal client profiles, understanding audience personas and jobs to be done, and the kinds of problems and things that they need to solve, the questions they have at different stages of their journey, at the top, middle, and bottom of the funnel, and also the things that we we want our client to be saying, what we want them to say, think, and do. So mapping all of that out. This model that Sam has prepared is a really useful framework for thinking about that and maybe assessing what you've got on your current homepage. Again, writing 300 or 400 words and sketching out a new structure isn't terribly time consuming, and it was an interesting thought exercise. We also recommend that you think in terms of personas, and especially now, as certainly big B2B tech deals have multiple decision makers, complex buying cycles, that it's certainly harder to sell now. People haven't got discretionary budgets and individual sign-off authority for a lot of the things that our clients want to sell. It tends to be a hand sell and an education sell. So you have to also wrap in information and audience specific stuff for them. And there are some tricks you can do about detecting who is visiting your site and where they're coming from, and you can personalize it a bit, especially if you've already dropped a cookie and captured them into the CRM. But you have to also make sure that the site, and particularly the menu nav, has additional information. So it might be, you know, your primary buyer is a CTO with a particular tech problem, and so that's where the homepage banner is, and then maybe the next section and what we do, and then somewhere you know that your other two audiences are the CFO and maybe business decision maker or something like that. So you might have like a section for each of those that's sort of relatively near the top and allows them to, okay, I'm absorbing the high level information about this product service, and now I can go off into my joyous CFO land or my joyous compliance land and find out more about that. We like putting some interactivity on our sites. If you look at some of our service pages now, we've got these little very simple checklists like, do you have any of these 5 problems? And as you tick them, the image changes, and once you tick 2 or 3 of them, you get a CTA that says, you know, book up a strategy session and we'll tell you how to solve it. Very subtle things like that can be quite powerful. More complicated pricing calculators and ROI calculators can be really helpful. We had a client that was selling B2B prospecting data, and they had a little calculator with 2 or 3 steps where you could actually find out, okay, I want 500 buyers in this sector with proven intent. How much is that going to cost me? Oh, not that much. Okay, I want to talk to someone. That sort of thing can work really well. This is a screenshot from a pricing calculator that we did for for our client Clover DX, which looks quite complicated, and it does live on the pricing page and not on the homepage. But what's really interesting about this is it doesn't give you an exact price, it gives you an indicative or start from price. But as you move the relatively simple sliders, it reinforces their positioning that you are paying for the infrastructure, you're paying for what you use, and it will grow with you. You're not paying sort of on a use case or per data manipulation, which a lot of the SaaS products do. And it's an important differentiation. It's an important thing for people to understand. So although it looks like a pricing calculator, it's actually an education about how the product works. Okay. This is the last slide, or the last content slide. This framework is a really useful one to think about just at a macro level for designing and considering your homepage. Think about clarity, think about context, framing the problem, think about credibility with social proof, think about commercial focus with that CTA engagement and really strong, clear next best steps. Think about the conversion flow. How do we give a narrative structure that works for our different audience personas? And then continuous improvement, right? Build it, test it, evaluate it, optimize it, support it with secondary content, and so on. These 6 C's are actually a good place to start when you're thinking about your website as a whole, but the homepage in particular. So thank you very much for sticking with me. There's still some few people left. I haven't managed to put them off yet. Please get in touch. Matthew at Articulate Marketing, articulatemarketing.com/meet. I'd love to talk to you. For now, though, thank you very much. It's been a fun delivering this. If you have any questions, please get in touch with me. Okay, and that's it. All right, bye, everybody.